can't know at this point, but he is the chief here at the Village of Baldwinsville, and he's nice enough to give us kind of a weekly update of what's happening. So thanks again, Mike, for being here. And
Good
how was
morning.
your week? Did you have a good week this week, or what's been going on?
Yeah, it's been you know an interesting week again for us here at the police department. It's been a variety of different calls for us. First thing I want to say is I did look last night and on the county website and their information and their data that they provide. Unfortunately, we do have I noticed 18 cases in Lysander and 4 active cases in Van Buren. So those are 22 people in our Baldwinsville community that are going through the battle right now. And I think it's important for us as a community to be doing everything we can to be supportive of those individuals and their families, and especially as that relates to social distancing and staying home and really following the guidelines that the county executive and the governor have laid out for us to do our best to flatten and turn the curve in the opposite direction. So I think that's probably the most important thing I could say today is that, it's certainly here in our Baldwinsville, greater Baldwinsville community. And it's something that we need to, I think, be cognizant of. Because sometimes I think when we look at the news, I know myself included, you watch a national news program or you watch a local news, and sometimes you think it might be more centered to the urban area of New York City, Long Island, Westchester, Rockland, Orange counties here in our state, and in other parts of the country where large urban areas. And I think when you start to see some of those numbers that no, it is here in Baldwinsville, that kind of hits home for us here.
Yeah, I agree.
So just a couple things I want to make mention about today. First and foremost, I know the mayor mentioned this at our virtual board meeting on Thursday that we did. But if those of you aren't aware, one of our officers, Lieutenant Mike Lockwood, sits on the Memorial Day Committee. That's the committee that helps plan the parade. They put in a tremendous amount of work every year to ensure that it's a great day for all involved. But unfortunately, due to the pandemic, they've canceled the parade. So there's a small contingent of veterans from both the VFW and the American Legion that will have a small service maintaining some social distancing guidelines in front of the post office. And then for those of you that don't know, as part of the parade actually stops every year right on the bridge that goes over the Seneca River. And the commanders of each post jointly drop a wreath into the Seneca River. And that's in remembrance of all the soldiers and sailors that lost their lives and are buried at sea. So they'll do a small ceremony there. And then over in St. Mary's and Riverview cemeteries, there'll be very small ceremony. So I'm pleased to know that I'll be a part of that as well. But it'll be a much more subdued event this year. And hopefully next year for the whole community, we'll be able to have that. But I think it was the right decision because the parade draws so many families out, and the ability to maintain social distancing is really not there for that type of event.
No, but it is nice that they're still going to do something. There's still recognition happening on that day, just not the parade itself. So I did hear the parade was canceled. I did not hear that they were going to do those things. So that's good to know. That's nice.
Yeah, very nice. And a lot of people, they just know that the parade goes on, but it's a lot more than that. And that there's a very nice ceremony over in Riverview Cemetery every year, and really honors those veterans and those individuals that have made the ultimate sacrifice. As I was looking over this morning, our list of calls, and I kind of noticed this from our last week. And I think these two things kind of go hand in hand. We've had some dispute calls, some domestic dispute calls, and then some calls that we call emotionally disturbed persons or mental illness calls. And quite frankly, we're not surprised by these. We've got a lot of people that are used to being able to leave their home, get out, do things, and now they're kind of cooped up inside, so to speak. And that can be difficult for people kind of deal with and think about and remain productive and remain connected to society. And I just want to remind people that if you're feeling in some sort of mental distress, you can call 211. That there's services available through that program. Instead of 911, call 211, and there's some help there. And that there's a lot of mental health services through the county and other means. Uh, all of us know that this is a difficult time for a lot of people, a trying time, and for many folks that don't have a strong social network to begin with, or might be living alone, and there's help out there. So we don't want anyone to feel alone or feel isolated, and please reach out, because that is such a critical thing for us, and we know that people can feel that way, and that it's a normal reaction, and sometimes normal reactions can feel very abnormal, and it's important to know that they're not. So I really want to get that message out there.
Well, and I think, to emphasize that, there's a lot of people that probably never even considered calling that number in the past because you've never been cooped up. But if the only people you're talking to are the same people every single day, and you're having that thought, it'd probably be nice to call 211 to hear that's normal. Like what you're feeling is normal, or just to have somebody else to listen to what's going on to give you that idea. So there, a lot of times when people throw that number out, I know, in my circle, it's, oh, there must be something wrong. But you might be somebody who's never had to use that number before. At least call, at least try. That might make you feel better. But I am sorry that your calls, those disputes are happening. But you're right, it's not surprising because there's no outlet. Everybody's stuck in their house. So
right, people that are used to, you think about husband wives that maybe are used to going to work every day, and now maybe they've been furloughed or they've been laid off, and there's some financial stress, and maybe kids involved, and you start to extrapolate all those types of things out. And we've had discussions here starting several weeks ago that we were kind of anticipating that. And I've put out directives to our staff that it's very important for us that we show up on those calls to be that calming influence, because we are still going to work every day, and we don't know all the dynamics that are going on in everyone's home and what's happening with everyone. And our goal is to try and handle those calls as professionally and as efficiently as we can, but also be as empathetic as we possibly can with those folks that we're probably dealing with, that we might never have dealt with them before, and probably hopefully never deal with them again. But because of what's happening, there's a lot of stressors that just to your point there, we couldn't have fathomed 2 or 3 months ago. And I kind of talked about this over the last couple of years, that if you'd have told me a few years ago our officers have been carrying Narcan to help people with heroin addictions and overdoses, I'd have told you were crazy, because prior to that, I'd seen heroin like twice in my whole career. And if you'd have told me 3 months ago, first of the year, that we'd be talking every month about a pandemic, I would have difficulty believing that as well. But this is the world we're living in, and for some folks, it presents some problems, and we understand that.
Yeah.
So, and then one of the other things we are getting calls on and we are dealing with are people are calling up regarding social distancing. And I would say for the most part, people are doing a pretty good job of that, but we're still getting some calls of individuals trying to congregate in parking lots and those types of things, and creating a situation where you're doing something like that in a very public setting, and people are going to call. And if we get calls, we have to show up and we have to respond to those things. So I would just ask everyone out there to please use common sense, is I guess what it would come down to. If you're going to meet with 10, 12 other people in a parking lot in the center of town, chances are we're going to get called on that, and we're going to show up, and you're going to have to leave. So don't put us in that bad position. Don't put yourselves in that bad position. I can understand many of us have a lot of friends that we want to spend time with. We enjoy seeing them, and use some of those social media platforms that are out there. There's a number of them. I'm not going to name them specifically, uh, I do go to Smoky Hollow CrossFit as an example, and I wasn't able to do this on Saturday, but they had a virtual happy hour on Saturday night, at 8 o'clock, and there were a number of people. And then I actually saw a couple of the coaches on Sunday morning. I went up. My daughter and I went hiking at Great Bear. They had been mountain biking there. I'd been mountain biking Saturday, and just happened to run into them right in the parking lot. And I said, "How'd your happy hour go?" And they said it went well. And they had a number of people on. Use some of those platforms for now, because I think again, going back to my original comment, we've got 22 friends and neighbors that we know here in the Baldwinsville community right now that are battling COVID-19. And I think it's kind of disrespectful to them if we can't support them by staying home and keeping our distance from each other.
So
And
can I just ask real quick? Because obviously I'm in the community and I hear things getting organized or people trying to do things. One of the thoughts is if you are getting together in those parking lots and you're creating this huge circle and there's 10 feet apart from everybody, people don't feel like they're doing anything wrong. Or if one friend invites another friend over to be at this side of the driveway and they're at this side of the driveway and it's BYOB, they feel like they're not doing anything wrong. But in hearing you, people are calling and it's being asked to be broken apart. Is that correct? Like even those things are not supposed to be happening?
Well, I would say, if you've got people like in your own neighborhood and, somebody's at one side of the driveway and somebody's at the other, I think that's a little different than gathering in the center of town with 10 to 15 vehicles and drawing attention to yourselves in an incredibly public place.
Okay.
The governor and the county executive have indicated those public gatherings are not supposed to occur and that they're not supposed to be happening at all. So, now we're put in a position where we have to try, and someone might call up and say, "Hey, the governor or the county executive have issued an executive order. We want you to enforce that." And it just puts us in a difficult position where I certainly understand people's thought process that, hey, we're trying to keep our distance from each other. We're being responsible. But yet again, those orders are out there that you're not supposed to be having those public congregations. So it just puts us in a difficult position. And, I would ask you, to just be mindful of that and to use common sense and good judgment for those types of gatherings.
No, that makes sense. And again, you don't really, if you think of the grand scheme of the people that are suffering from COVID, do you really need to have the driveway parties? But sometimes it's family members or, and I just wanted to ask, because I know that's the line, right? There's always that gray area. Are you doing something wrong or is it acceptable? And I think it probably stays in that gray area depending on how people are handling it. So
exactly. And then I noticed some of the comments from last week's talk that we had. There were people commenting, and I've heard calls of this go out on our radio frequency. Individuals that have worn masks or gloves into a commercial business, whether it be a grocery store or hardware store or some other establishment, and then have left and have put those items, left them either in a grocery cart or on the ground. And again, there's plenty of places that you could put those, bring a little paper bag, put those in there and throw them away. Put those items in the trash because now you're expecting someone else to pick those items up. And while you in your mind might feel, hey, I'm healthy, I'm not feeling any symptoms, I think I'm okay. Much of the data that's out there now is indicating that there's a number of individuals that have had the virus that have shown no symptoms at all or do have the virus now. And that's great for those individuals that they haven't had to deal with any of those symptoms, but they've still been problematic. So now you're putting in those individuals that might have to go pick up that trash in a tough position because now they've got to pick up your trash and throw that away. And it presents a real problem. So again, I kind of circle back to my initial comment. We've got 22 individuals now in the Baldwinsville area that are dealing with this. We don't want more. So to do everything you can, just simply throw those things away in a trash receptacle. And now no one has to come into contact with those. That'll help keep that number at 22 or less. That's our
No,
ultimate goal.
it's true. And honestly, and I get your point going back to COVID, but just as a citizen in the village of Baldwinsville, that's common courtesy not to leave your garbage or your mask or your gloves in a shopping cart or anywhere for somebody else to pick up. Right. I mean, find that garbage can. It makes it worse because of what we're going through. And that protective stuff should really be with you all the way to the car anyway.
Yeah.
You know, if you think about it, if you're taking it off and then leaving it in the cart, you just touched the cart without the gloves or, you know, whatever ended up happening. So,
Yeah, initially I was kind of surprised to read those comments, but then when you hear a couple of actual calls for service go out to officers in the area, both not so much our department, but certainly I've heard those calls for the sheriff's office and the troopers outside the village. I'm like, okay, this is an issue, and it is happening. So I figured it was something important for us to address this morning. And I continue to say I appreciate all you're doing. I know every day you're on with different people, Supervisor Wicks and Mayor Clark and other individuals are on. And I really look forward to Monday mornings to have this opportunity to talk to the community, to get our message out there, to just remind people our officers continue to be on duty 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're doing everything we can to remain as healthy as possible. And our officers are using hand sanitizer. We have masks for them. They're wiping down the interiors of their car with disinfectant wipes every day, but both before and after their shift, just doing their best to be as clean and healthy as possible. So, so we're doing that so that way when there is those emergency type calls, that we can respond to those. So our goal is to be there for the community, and we're doing everything we can to meet that objective.
And we completely appreciate it. And I think it's the community shows that they're appreciative, Chief, because I could be wrong, but I believe you're getting donations and different things to kind of help those things happen from different, I know Baldwinsville helping Baldwinsville, but even other members of the community. I hear some chatter about them dropping off some things, some masks and cleaning supplies, things like that to you guys as well, correct?
Yeah, we have had that, and that's been excellent. Some people have done that anonymously, which has been very nice. We've had people drop off, disinfectant wipes or some masks. And I actually had somebody reach out to me last week. The vacation had gotten canceled. They bought some spiral sliced hams, asked if we knew some families that might be able to benefit from them. And, we just didn't involve Ballsville, helping Ballsville with that. We actually managed to, we bought some other food items so for those families, and we're aware of some families that maybe are struggling a little bit, and we got them. We're going to deliver those meals to them, all done anonymously and very, very nice. We've had some people drop off some baked goods here, not that we needed those, but the owner of the deli, Joanne, reached out to me on Saturday and said someone anonymously wants to buy lunch, for everyone in the department. How can we facilitate that? So there's been some very nice people, and it's not just with us, but I know Ballsville, helping Ballsville. I've been in regular contact with not only you, but other people involved there, and that's been a great resource for the community as well. And again, it really goes back to what a tremendous area we live in. I'm so happy to work and live in Baldwinsville and to be affiliated with here. And again, I think it goes back to those individuals in the area that we know are dealing with this struggle, and doing everything we can to be respectful of them and to help everyone in the Baldwinsville community as much as we can.
Yeah, and again, I said it, but I'll repeat it. We appreciate, having you guys in the community and having the, you had mentioned that you guys can be empathetic, right? You're not going in there and trying to be hard guys breaking up things, or not having compassion for the people that are struggling with something different, who maybe have never called you guys in the past, things like that. So I can't express it. It's no surprise that you're getting donations for the baked goods and buying lunch, because there's so much appreciation for what you guys do. So thank you.
Well, thank you, and we do appreciate it. And again, it's just a great place, and we all feel fortunate to work here.
Awesome. So, well, thanks again for your time this week, Chief. I look forward to Mondays with you, and also with Dick Clark and Bob Wicks, and Mary Francis from the town of Van Buren's also been talking recently as well. So it just, I think, at least for me, there's normalcy happening behind the scenes. Like, people are involved, people are trying to help. You know, and the fact that you guys are sharing the information with us, I've gotten comments, and I'm sure you have as well, about the appreciation of you taking the time on Monday mornings to reach out and kind of give us an update. So
Yeah, it's been great. You're really good, and I enjoy hearing those comments from citizens, and I do look at them as well. So that's excellent.
all right. Well, enjoy your week, Chief. I look forward to talking to you next Monday.
You do the same. Talk to you soon. Bye now.
Bye.